Hello, everyone. Trevor here, and welcome to Oscar Buzz episode 24. It is Oscars weekend, as if you're watching this, you probably know. So, we decided not to record an actual podcast episode. So, instead, I kind of have a Frankenstein's monster of a couple of things that I recorded individually and that I recorded with Thomas that put together. So, there's still an episode on this Oscars Sunday. So, first, you will see my best picture nominee rankings that I recorded a little bit earlier today. And then after that, there will be a video that Thomas and I recorded a couple of weeks ago that is our ranking of the best animated feature nominees. So just something fun to fill the space before the Oscars this evening. Hope you enjoy, everybody. Hello, everybody. It is Oscars day, and to bask in the last moments of the calm before the storm, I am going to be ranking all 10 Best Picture nominees just for fun. This doesn't mean anything. I just have to do things to keep myself entertained, so I don't switch my switch my predictions over and over again and drive myself insane. So let's just jump straight in. Number 10 is Nightmare Alley. I really wanted to like this film. I really like Guillermo del Toro a lot. I think that he's such a strong voice just in the world of film in general. But this just didn't work for me. The movie felt very disjointed. There's a big 2-year gap in the middle of the film. And those two parts just felt so disjointed. The ending, I think, works really well, actually. I think Bradley Cooper is very, very good in that ending sequence. But even that ending sequence, it still feels so separate and apart from everything else. It felt like a bunch of pieces of what could have been a good film that just kind of fell apart, and it turned into kind of this like cold mess that I couldn't even attach to emotionally. It's a very impressive film. Technically, the cinematography and production design is beautiful, but this just is not a Best Picture nominee for me. Number 9, Belfast. I mean, it's fine. It's enjoyable. It's a brisk watch. It's only an hour 35, I think. It's a fun movie, but it really is nothing more. I mean, there's black and white cinematography. I'm actually shocked the Academy didn't nominate it because it's just fine. Like the sound, it got the sound nomination. That's just fine. All of the performances are just fine. Like this is just a perfectly acceptable movie. I don't have that many problems with it. It tries to tell story through, the lens of Buddy, and capture his like childlike wonder, and maybe the exaggerated view that he had of the troubles and everything going on around him. And I think it does all of that just fine. It wasn't anything truly exceptional. This is just a perfectly acceptable movie. Number 8, King Richard. I have a lot of fun with this movie. I really, really like the sports film genre, but similar to Belfast, this just doesn't do that much. It's definitely a film, I think, geared towards older Academy voters, because it's a crowd pleasing film. You'll have fun with it, and then you can move on. It doesn't inspire any kind of thought provoking discussions. You could have done that, and maybe there is just a little bit because Will Smith's portrayal of Richard Williams, which I initially, the first time I saw it, wasn't the biggest fan of. The second time I liked it a bit more. It still comes across as a little like SNL ish, like he's just doing an SNL version of Richard Williams, which wasn't my favorite, but I do think he deserves a bit more because we almost get to the point where we can have a really interesting conversation about Richard Williams as a person. And I think this movie could have functioned even better as a character study of Richard Williams because he's an interesting guy. Maybe he wasn't the best person or father. He said some interesting stuff, but he definitely loved his kids and definitely wanted to support them. Um, I think that there was an angle that you could have taken with that, with maybe a better director at the helm, but Renato Marcus Screen still did a solid job, and this movie's perfectly fine. I definitely wouldn't mind rewatching it, but it's never going to reach that next level for me. Number 7, Don't Look Up. This is a film that I feel very conflicted about. I came away with it really enjoying it. Is it without its problems? Absolutely not. The editing is something. I still haven't decided if I liked it or disliked it. It's just so jarring, and that's I think the point, but it's still just so jarring. The performances are all okay, but it's really nothing special. Leonardo DiCaprio does the thing where he screams and yells, but that's Jennifer Lawrence is just fine. Jonah Hill's like all the performances are just okay. They're I would say fairly typical Adam McKay performances. Um, and yeah, this movie's a lot. It attempts to tackle the world and satirize it and everything that's going on in the world, which is a pretty tall task. And I think it works, even if it isn't done in the most deft or articulate or nuanced way. I think it still gets across the sense of frustration that Adam McKay wanted to get across. I think that, like, in the world that we're living in, where everything is over the top, all of our news is so over the top, and etc. Like how everybody talks about what's going on in the world is so over the top and exaggerated. I think an over the top and exaggerated film works. Like I think this film works for what it was going for, but I don't know if what it was going for was ever going to be great. I did just have a really fun time with this, which is why it's above the three below it, just because I had a lot more fun with it. But this definitely isn't a great movie. Number 6, Coda. Just an absolute delight. Amelia Jones is a star in the making. She absolutely crushed it with this film. She is the emotional core of the entire movie. Also, she can sing like really, really well. Troy Kotzer and Marlee Matlin are both phenomenal. I think that Marlee Matlin was also deserving of a nomination. Troy Kotzer almost certainly going to win an Oscar tonight, which is great. I love that for him. I love that for him so much. Um, so the problems with this are that I would say, you can compare this to King Richard, Belfast. This doesn't do that much. It's great to see a deaf ensemble cast. I mean, but we also did just have a film focusing around the deaf community last year. Granted, Riz Ahmed, I understand, is not deaf. And I think it's really important to have deaf performers. But other than that, this movie really isn't saying that much. I found it a bit forgettable. The screenplay's pretty predictable. The fact that this is winning adapted screenplay, most likely over The Power of the Dog, is just odd. Because it's a predictable screenplay. Like, people are saying that it's a Disney Channel or like Hallmark or Lifetime movie. That's completely untrue. This pulls off everything a lot better because it hits, I would say, all the same beats as those, but it hits all of those beats to the best of its ability. It hits all those beats really, really well. But it still is kind of constrained to that uplifting, crowd pleasing small format. Um, and it was never going to be able to break out of that. But what it did with that format, I think it does really, really well. Number 5, we have Dune. Just a stunning technical marvel of a film. The cinematography was phenomenal. The production design, the sound in the score, the latter coming from Hans Zimmer, is just mind-bogglingly incredible. Just a beautifully constructed movie. Denis Villeneuve was snubbed so horribly for his Best Director nomination. He really, really should have had it because he conducted this film like an orchestra. Like, he really, really crushed it. I don't know if this is my favorite of his. I still might prefer Arrival, but I mean, Denis Villeneuve does not miss. Now, I don't love the editing in this film. I know a lot of people do. There were just a couple of scenes that felt very oddly constructed. I think that the pacing of this film runs a little thin in the back half of it. And it can feel like a bit of a slog, especially with no really strong performances. to ground the film and keep your attention. The thing that you're there for is the technical marvel. Like, the screenplay is just fine. It is a part one, which isn't to say an argument against the film, but it does have certain constraints with that being the case. So I really, really, really enjoyed this. It just didn't have enough to get into these top four. I would really say that I only love the top three. And number four is just slightly better. That number four being Licorice Pizza. We'll address the elephant in the room. This obviously has its problems, considering it focuses around a relationship with one character being over 18, the other being under 18, a very large age gap. I think it's 8 or 9 years age gap. There is also some fairly insensitive racial humor that PTA has defended. And I obviously am not a fan or supporting any of that. But, like, in all honesty, this is like my green book. There are people that will love that film regardless of all of its problems, and that's this for me. I fell in love with this film. I think that the cinematography is very, very subtle and very, very gorgeous. Um, the editing is so strong in this. The fact that it didn't get nominated is a tragedy. It constructs all of these little moments, all of these pieces of our two leads' lives, Cooper Hoffman and Alana Haim. And we get all these small bits and pieces of just them growing closer and closer together throughout the 70s in I believe it's the San Fernando Valley, and it's so well constructed. I think Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman both gave like some of the best performances of the year, especially Alana Haim. I think that she was deserving of a nomination. Bradley Cooper gives one of the best supporting performances of the year. Like I said, this has its problems, obviously, but I'm willing to look past them just a little bit, just because of how much this movie just lulled me into its world and made me fall in love with it. Number three, West Side Story. Now we are getting into the ones that I love. 1961's West Side Story is one of my favorite films of all time. I love that movie so much. Similar to Licorice Pizza, definitely has some problems. Such as casting white actors as all the Puerto Ricans and using gasoline to dye their skin. Obviously a problem, but it's one of, I just think, the greatest directed films of all time. I mean, the music is iconic at this point. I think everybody knows at least one song from West Side Story, the chorus of it. And I was a bit worried about the remake, especially with Steven Spielberg, and I've learned to never doubt Steven Spielberg again. He can just do whatever he wants until he dies. Like, blew me away with this. I think it's even more visually stunning than the original. I think that Rachel Zegler is a better Maria. Like, I think that Ariana DeBose crushed it. Rita Moreno coming back was phenomenal. Ansel Elgort wasn't great. Definitely the weakest singer. Definitely gave the best, not the best, the worst performance. And kind of hindered the chemistry, which is supposed to be the emotional core of the film that we're riding on throughout the entirety of the movie. But all things considered, I mean, I go back and forth on whether this is an improvement, but like, just some of the best scenes of the year come from this. Like, the America sequence is just mastery coming from Steven Spielberg. I really, really love this movie. Number two, Drive My Car. This was the last one that I watched, and it's very possible that I saved the best for last. It's really close between this and my number one. Um, because this movie, everybody, if you have HBO Max, watch it. Do not be intimidated by the 3 hour runtime. Um, you'll like I felt it a little bit, but really not that much, and that's just a testament to the editing. It moves along so nicely. You within like I don't know 30 minutes or so of the film, you are completely immersed within the world of these characters. Ryosuke Hamaguchi um, made two amazing films this year between this and the Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy. Like he has just such an incredible ability to immerse you in the world of his characters, to make you fall in love with all of his characters despite all of their flaws. And by the end of the film, you almost miss the characters. You're sad that they're going away because he lets you sit with the characters in the exciting moments and the non-exciting moments, and all of their high points and their low points. He builds connections and bridges between all of the characters that they're formed and broken throughout the film. Just like it's odd to call this world building because it just takes place in modern day Japan, but just some of the best world building of the year. He creates a world with these characters. And I honestly cannot wait to return to it. Again, this even with the 3 hour long runtime, I would sit down and watch this movie right now if given the option. It's so incredible. And I need to rewatch it and rewatch my number one to really decide what was number one. But for now, I have at number one The Power of the Dog. Jane Campion is one of my favorite filmmakers. Just a master. Like she just understands film. Um, yeah, that's such an odd way to say it, but she really understands how film works, all of the intricacies, how to create a story and craft a story. And that's the really amazing thing about The Power of the Dog. It can feel like not a lot is going on throughout. And she's just dropping little bits and pieces, just scattering little seeds for you to pick up on. And then by the end of it, you realize everything that had been set up. Um, and it's honestly just perfect. All four lead performers give phenomenal performances, especially I mean, I don't even want to say especially because they're just all incredible. Benedict Cumberbatch is amazing, career best. I think Kirsten Dunst gives a career best. Cody Smith McPhee gives a career best. Jesse Plemons might give a career, but like just some incredible performances. Johnny Greenwood's score is amazing. His score here and his score in Spencer, my two favorite scores of the year. Um, uh, like the cinematography from Ari Wegner is amazing. Like I keep on using the word amazing to describe this movie, and it really, really is amazing. And I feel like I'm not saying that much because I have such a love for this film. Um, just one of the most well written screenplays I have ever watched. Just a masterpiece of a movie. But those are my rankings of the Best Picture nominees. This is just my opinion. It's subjective. If you have a different opinion, I would love to hear it. You probably don't agree with mine, but I'm happy to hear everybody else's. Uh, so yeah, I at the time of recording, 3 hours until the Oscars start. Can't wait. I can not wait. So I will see all of you for the Oscars. But until then, stay safe, everybody, and goodbye. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a bit of a special thing. This is going to be fun. We are ranking the 5 best animated feature nominees. The 5. Yeah, we might do not the 5 Bloods, which was sadly snubbed a lot of places. But we'll be going through the 5 animated feature nominees. Those being like what is it? It's Encanto, it's Flea, it's Mitchell's, it's Raya and the Last Dragon, and it's Luca. I almost did alphabetical order. So we might do this with other categories. We'll have to see. Documentary international. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Thomas has a ranking up on his channel. of all 10 Best Picture nominees, Famous Pictures. I will be doing that once I see Drive My Car in about a week. So,
I did it before I saw Drive My Car, so there we go.
and Nightmare Alley. Um,
Yeah.
but let's jump right in. I'll just kick it off with my number five, which is Raya and the Last Dragon. Thomas, is this your number five?
Indeed it is.
Okay. I wasn't the biggest fan of Ryan the Last Dragon. I'm kind of confused about why people liked it a lot. Like the animation was good, but it was fairly standard. It didn't do anything different. I wasn't the biggest fan of the voice performances. I love that Disney is actually like, I mean, with both Encanto and Ryan the Last Dragon this year, like they're having a lot more diverse casts, which is great to see. The performances in this one just weren't the best, at least to me. Like Kelly Marie Tran and Aquafina just felt very stale, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan of Aquafina overall. I didn't love her in Crazy Rich Asians, didn't love her in Shang-Chi. I think she's phenomenal in The Farewell and should have been nominated that year. But other than that, like I'm not the biggest fan of her when she does more of her comedic stuff. So overall, I just felt that this movie was fairly standard. It didn't grip me in any way. It wasn't memorable in any way. It was just kind of there. And I mean that's okay, but I don't think it was nomination worthy.
No, I mean I haven't seen Belle, so that was
Yeah,
really, I guess, the number six. But there were some, I saw Summit of God, which was easily
yeah,
better than this. You know, for a film that is sort of based on its like world building,
yeah,
did do it for me. Didn't do it for me.
yeah,
It just didn't feel, I guess, fleshed out enough. They didn't spend enough time really building this world. Like they mentioned, they build up the dragons as like a big deal, and then she meets it very early on into the movie. Like
yeah.
she spends most of the time with the dragon, which the film, it didn't feel like it was going in this direction, and then the direction it did end up taking was just not one that really interested me. The supporting characters, from what I remember, because I'll be honest, I saw this back in June, didn't leave much of an
Me too.
impression on me.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, once it was free on Disney Plus, I thought,
yeah,
fine, I'll check it out. But yeah, from what I remember, the supporting characters were just a bit annoying, really, just a bit
yeah. There
annoying.
was like the kid with the boat. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, the animation was pretty good, but I mean, it was
it was.
Disney. What do you expect?
Yeah,
I didn't like I hate the dragon design. I thought the dragon design was way too cartoonish. But in terms of like the character, like models and world models, the animation on that front was very, very good. So yeah, I mean, fine, it's there, cool. You probably expected it to be there, but equally, didn't really do it for me.
also, like this really doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the movie, but very ironic about how the themes of the movie are trust and like giving to others of your trust. As Disney made people pay $30 to watch the movie. Um,
Yeah.
People who are already paying for Disney Plus. Um, just throwing that out there, which means that they had to pay like $40 to watch Ryan the Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Moving on to number four, which for me is a another Disney Plus premiere, Luca. Thomas, is this your number four?
It is not. No.
It is not. Okay. Um, Interesting. So my number four is Luca. I think that this movie's fine. I think it also struggles from some voice acting issues, and this might also potentially be that like I saw this fairly early, and similarly to Ryan the Last Dragon, didn't leave that much of an impression. I also watched this in June when it came out, um, and it was just fine. Like it's okay. Like I think the score is very good. I think the score went very underappreciated. The animation was good, but like once again, it wasn't very impressionable from a narrative standpoint for me. Like it was fun enough, and like it's just there. But like I don't have that much to say about it because like it's just it didn't it didn't give me that much. It didn't give me that much to talk about. It's short. It's fun enough. It's fine. It's there, but nothing really struck me about the film. Also, funnily enough, fun fact, a review of this was the first thing I ever did on this channel,
Oh,
over 100
yeah,
videos ago.
yeah.
So you can
There you go.
not watch
Do
that.
about what you will. Yes. No, so this is my number 3, which means there's
Okay.
one placement up. And I would agree, it's not the most impressionable film.
Yeah.
As a Pixar fan, this is one of its weaker outings. Not its
Yep.
weakest. There are some far worse films than this. But this is a definitely weaker outing. Voice acting was fine. Story was fine. I think once they get to the whole competition aspect, it does start to fall apart a little. I'll
Yeah.
put it. I'm not a massive fan of this film, to put um, but it does do more for me than another film which I put fourth. Because I guess it is exploring slightly more interesting themes about like discovery and tradition versus whatever
Yeah.
non-traditional stuff. So it is exploring slightly more interesting themes on that front. And I do think the characters themselves are more layered um, than this other film, which again mysterious. Which could this other film be?
Oh,
But yeah, I do think the characters are slightly more layered here, and the animation is better. It like everything they do with the Italian Riviera is beautiful, and the underwater stuff as well is equally very very
yeah. The animation's
very
very
good.
good.
Yeah,
It's very good.
yeah. So it does a little more for me than the other film, but
You
it
just want
is
to say it.
close.
You can just. I mean, just say
Encanto,
your number four
Encanto.
is
Yeah, my
Encanto.
number 4 is Encanto.
Cue the
There you go. That should
discussion.
yeah,
Um,
that should clear things up a little. So yeah, but we can move on to talk about Encanto if you like.
you can go ahead. It's your number four.
Okay, so yeah, my number 4 Encanto. This was disappointing because I'd heard it was very good and watched it, and it was as mediocre as they come. As I was saying, the characters like are all very one note, like very one note. Except for the lead protagonist, like she's the only real interesting character.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Um, yeah, and the music's like it's not that good. The music's not that good.
I'd agree.
I know a lot of people disagree with me. Lin-Manuel Miranda, not always a massive fan of him, really, as a working artist. And this is just, it feels very safe. This film, they're exploring themes that Disney films has been exploring for ages.
Yeah,
They're doing nothing new here. The production design was like, all not production design, I guess, animated production design.
yeah. That's the thing.
Was it was yeah it was possible. I just didn't think the house, like for this kind of film, you want the house and all the characters to be like to feel like they're living in a fleshed out world. It never felt that way. Not to compare this to The Incredibles, but I'm going to compare it to The Incredibles. The Incredibles feels, the superheroes, they're integrated into a world. It feels like a living, breathing world where superheroes are a part of it. This just feels like, yeah, it's a world apparently. So the film tells me, and yeah, the voice acting as well in this isn't superb. I mean, it's good, but what do you expect? It's Disney.
Right.
Yeah, that's the sentence I would go. It's okay.
Yeah.
What do you expect? It's Disney. That's my sentence review.
So I agree with a lot of what you said. I do agree that all the characters are completely one note, except I believe Mirabelle, is that the lead character?
Mirabelle, I think so.
Um, but like yeah, she's pretty fleshed out. She's multidimensional. Everything else fairly one note. I mean, there's some interesting conflict with like the grandma and like again talking about like I mean almost similarly to Luca about like old tradition versus like bringing in something new. Um, and like familial like heritage and what that can mean. Like there's some stuff once again it's been explored before. I mean even again with just Luca. Um,
Yeah,
so
and I
like
think Luca does it better because I think it's more subtle in it, and I think yeah,
I mean like yeah I think the house works as an interesting metaphor, but it wasn't used as much with like the cracking of like the family, and I mean it's a very obvious metaphor, but like yeah it never felt like the world was that big.
yeah,
However, where I do disagree with you is Lin Manuel Miranda. even though I'm not the hugest fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda, just overall, he does some interesting stuff that I'm not quite the biggest fan of, but he is, I think, one of the most talented people just working today in
Mhm.
the creative arts. Like Hamilton in the Heights, I mean, in this are both like incredibly written musicals. And that's just personally, I love musicals. Musicals are one of my favorite genres. I know
Yeah, I
musicals
don't
are
like musicals,
one of
so
your favorite genres, but
no.
like I love how well thought out each one of the songs feel. I mean, we don't talk about Bruno. Like, I mean, it's it's a new sound for Disney as far as their music. I mean, and then like I just like he did when he does this freaking overlappy thing at the end of songs. He did it in the Heights in 96,000. He did it in Hamilton at the end of the first act. And he's doing it again here, where everybody brings back their chorus and it's all overlapping. And it's very well written. That's very hard to do. So I I enjoy a lot of the music. I'm not obsessed with it like everybody else. I don't think that it's Lin-Manuel Miranda's best work. I actually think Hamilton and In the Heights are better as far as like original music that he's written for something. I also love how everybody's just forgotten about Vivo, but like
Yeah.
this I enjoyed that part of it. I thought that the animation was fairly good. I liked how a lot of we don't see it a lot with animation, but having like Dutch angles, which was fun. It's something that you don't really see that much in animation. Just like a stationary Dutch angle, which it was just cool to see lights used in a fun way. So like I didn't think that this was great, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Um,
Yeah, I do think if the music was weirdly in a way less popular, I might enjoy it better. In a similar way to Frozen's music, it
they're
became
overplayed.
everything. It became overplayed. Like Frozen was everywhere. In a similar way to The Greatest Showman, not an animated film, but point still
Yeah,
stands.
yeah.
Once musical become popular and their songs are played everywhere, it takes away the effect of them.
To be fair, Greatest Showman was never that good to begin with.
No, no,
Um,
terrible film. Never, it never even good. Just bad
yeah,
film.
I mean, some of the music was good. Like some of
Yeah,
the songs were
exactly.
good, but
Yeah.
then they became overplayed. Frozen, I do
Hmm.
still stand by. That's a very good film. I wouldn't say it's great, but like it shouldn't have won. Ernest and Celestine should have won, but
Yeah.
it's still good. Um, Number two, these top two are very hard for me. They're very
Yeah.
hard. They're two films that I absolutely adore. Number two, I have placed Mitchell's vs. the Machines.
Same. Same.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, switch them.
Thomas said he switched something beforehand, and I think we now know what it is. So Mitchell's vs. the Machines. We both saw this in April. We reviewed it on another podcast that you can try to dig up.
Yeah.
Uh, Teens Talk Movies, which we did for a couple of months. Um, and I think we were both very surprised by how much we loved it.
Yeah. Because I
Because like
hated the trailers.
yeah, I
Hated
did
them.
too. I thought it was just going to be another thing about like you kids need to get off your phones. But like no, that's a beautiful film. Like I love Lord and Miller. They're like I always forget about them, but they're like I think about like my favorite directors and like oh yeah, probably Lord and Miller are up there. Like I mean, or I guess it's like filmmakers. They like Spider Verse, which they produced and like wrote, and like the Lego Movie. I still believe that the Lego Movie is like a masterpiece of animation. Um, it's
Okay.
I love it a lot. I really do love the Lego Movie. Even it's like Chris Pratt's the only negative. Um, but like I think that this movie is phenomenal. The animation style is so fun. I really enjoyed it. It felt reminiscent to Spider Verse, where it's just like it's chaotic and it feels like its own thing, but it feels like something that the character Katie Mitchell would make, which is fun. Just like the artistic style of Spider Verse felt like one of Miles Morales's like art, like pieces of art. So like I love how they animate like that. It's like each character is very fun. Each character is fleshed out. Each part of the family. I mean, it's a it hits all of its emotional beats. It's also legitimately funny. Like it's a
Yeah,
very funny movie, which
yeah,
is rare for modern animation to be like actually funny. But this hits just everything perfectly. I love this movie. I don't have a lot of complaints. It's just I love the one that my number one pick just a little bit more. But this is a phenomenal film.
yeah. So I would agree. I mean, the animation doesn't work as well for me because I don't like the character designs. Like the character designs
That's fair.
themselves just feel like off to me.
That's fair.
And so I could like I love everything going on around them. I love, as you said, the chaotic nature of it.
Yeah.
But in terms of character design themselves, does slightly take me out of the film. The plot was actually surprisingly a lot more coherent and better than
Yeah.
I was
It's like
expecting it to be.
well done.
Yeah, exactly. Olivia Colman is a phenomenal
Yes.
villain in this kind of sense. Her voice just absolutely works. And yeah, the whole family element really works because all of them, they feel like a family. Like they're all
Hmm.
interacting in good ways. They're all interacting in ways that feel believable. And as you say, this film is genuinely funny. Like there are some
It is.
genuinely moments that had me laughing, like probably out loud.
Yep.
Um, and that's a sign of a good film. That is a sign of a good film.
Yep.
Was it all that memorable? Did it leave all of that lasting impact on me? Well, it left more of an impact on me than Luca, Encanto, and Raya did.
Oh, yeah.
But equally, it wasn't the most mind-blowing, memorable animated film of all time. It was, and I don't know if it was trying to be. Like, it was trying to be a fun little adventure that had like a nice little message at the end, and
Yep.
that's what it was. It had a nice little message that does resonate somewhat, and is a fun little adventure, and that's all you can really ask for.
It's also just a very fun story about like a teenager who wants to make films, and like there's
Yeah.
some fun film references in there, like her favorite filmmaker Celine Sciamma, which like yes, cool, love that that's in the Netflix animated movie. Um, so yeah,
Mm.
I love this movie a lot. I love this movie so much that I bought the Blu-ray for it, even though it's on Netflix. Um, it's I really really enjoyed this film. So also with this, I actually do suggest this Blu-ray because you get to see all of Katie Mitchell's Dog Cop short films, which are very enjoyable and very fun.
Okay.
But yeah, and I mean that's just another. It's a fun bit throughout the film that I think was very funny. So like, um, I like this movie a lot. But let's get into our number one. We just put up a review of it.
Yeah. So we
Um,
probably don't need to go in too much depth into this film.
no, actually, the review. Well, depending on when this comes out, the review will. There is a review.
Somewhere, yes.
Somewhere. It's finished. It will be coming out. Maybe it already has. But our number one is Flea. So when I initially talked to you, Thomas, you still had Mitchell's at number one, and you had Flea sitting at number two. What compelled you to move Flea up to the number one spot?
Okay, so firstly, I think Flea is almost a flawless film, whereas Mitchell's, character designs take me out of it. There are some other minor flaws here and there. Um, Also, this is definitely recency bias, but Flea is a more memorable experience. Like,
Yeah,
you will,
it's visceral. Like,
yeah, like in come 6 months' time, I know I will have seen Flea a lot more recently. Still, even then, like you can't ever
yeah,
equate it. But I presume in okay, say 10 years' time, I will remember Flea more than I remember Mitchell versus Machines. Right now, Flea has left more of an impact on me because I've seen it more recently. I presume,
yeah,
but I do reckon it will stay that way. Because Flea, I mean, I'm still thinking about Flea to this day, and it's been what
yeah,
3 weeks maybe since I've seen it, 2 weeks.
yeah,
And that is a sign of a remarkable film. I think the animation is very very different to Mitchell's. Like that's what
yeah,
I love the animation category because Luca is very different to Mitchell's. Is very different to
yep,
Flea, and that's what you get in a category like that, animated feature.
hundred
I
percent.
just think Flea was doing more. It was trying to achieve more, and it achieved it. What it was doing with the whole immigration story and everything. Just everything felt a lot more satisfying with this film in a way that it didn't with Mitchell vs. Machines.
It's a very emotionally impactful film. Like
Yeah,
it goes for your emotions hard and it hits.
yeah,
Um, yeah, like I said, I won't go into it too much because we did just record a review of it a couple of days ago. But I love this movie. It was my number 8 film of the year. It's out of 141 2021 films. So like I like this movie a lot. I've seen it twice now, and it hit emotionally both times. Like it works. There are some scenes that I think are gonna stick with me forever. Um, it's a just a truly phenomenal piece of filmmaking. Some of my favorite animation ever. Again, comparable to Ernest and Celestine, which I think is it's up there for my favorite animated film of all time,
Mhm.
alongside two aforementioned Lord Miller films, Spider Verse and Lego Movie. Um, but like this is just a it's this is cinema, to quote Martin Scorsese. Um, it is Flea. I really do hope it takes home at least one Oscar, even though it's looking less and less likely. Uh, it would be great if that could happen because like the amount of work placed behind this film, just like getting this film made, is such an
Mm,
achievement.
yeah.
It's a great film. So, in closing, would you like to recap your list?
Okay, so my list is as follows. Number 5 was Raya and the Last Dragon. Number 4 was Encanto. Number 3 was Luca. Number 2 was Mitchell's versus the Machines. And number 1 was Flea. So interestingly, the bottom 3 all comprised of Disney banner projects.
Yeah. Mine is very similar, just a slight altercation. Number 5, Ryan the Last Dragon. Number 4, Luca. Number 3, Encanto. Number 2, The Mitchells vs. the Machines. And number 1, Flea. And that is our rankings of the best animated feature nominees for 2022. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Before you go, Thomas, where can the people on the internet find you?
You can find me at Payne's Pictures and on YouTube at Thomas Gladstone.
You can find me YouTube at The Basement, Letterboxd at Trevor Matson, Twitter at TM Talks Movies, and on the Banana Meter. Until next time, stay safe, everybody, and goodbye.